you were investing in Anchorage and you invest across the country, and you recently decided no more homes in Anchorage that you're owning. Can you tell me about that decision, this idea that we're going into these tough times, and instead of holding more, holding it closer to your vest where you're at, you've decided to like push your assets further from you geographically?
Yeah, I'm from Pennsylvania. I've lived in Anchorage, Alaska for years now. And actually, you might not yet know this, Pablo. I sold my last Anchorage, Alaska rental property earlier this year. Therefore, this is the first time in 20 years that I don't own any rental properties in my home state. So I know that the best deals are typically across state lines. They tend to be in the United States, Midwest and South. That's where you get a high ratio of rent income in proportion to a low purchase price. That's where you get landlord-tenant law that tends to favor landlords more so than tenants, and you can get a prompt eviction. So I invest in the United States, Midwest and South, often in properties that I have never seen before with my own two eyes. I still get a third-party inspection. I still have an appraisal done. It's kind of a funny thing to think. The appraiser, they don't make sure that the owner ever sees the property themselves in person, right? That's not a requirement. And the appraiser is the one verifying the quality of the bank's collateral. That's the whole job of what an appraisal is. And then I can use another remote tool like We Go Look to just independently get an agent off the street to go check something out for me if I want to do that. But I don't invest in my local market because we have a contracting population. I do invest in places like Florida. I am investing in Florida because there's population expansion there. And I tend to like to invest in or close to metro areas where you have a wide diversification of economic sectors that really hedges one against any sort of downturn. So I don't invest in my local market at all. Prices haven't appreciated, rents haven't appreciated very much. And it all goes back to this loss in population. So I want to be in a place that's expanding. And a lot of people certainly think that's crazy. Wait, you own properties sometimes thousands of miles away that you've never seen before? Oh yeah, I have bought properties that I have never seen before, and I've held them for a few years for the production of cash flow, and I sold them for a tax-free gain, and then I'll never see that property. And maybe you're still wondering now, how can I have the faith? Doesn't that seem so backwards or upside down? I mean, this is kind of a show of counterintuition with all the things that we're talking about here, Pablo. But I understand that in real estate investing, which I've been doing actively for over 20 years, not just investing in REITs or something, but I've been investing actively in real estate for over 20 years, ever since I made my first ever home of any kind of fourplex building where I lived in one unit and rented out the other three. The property is only the fourth most important thing because for you as a real estate investor, it's important to be strategic and understand that the most important thing in real estate investing is you. What do you want real estate to do for you? Do you want it to produce cash flow for you? That's a common answer. Or appreciation? Or are you in it for the tax sheltering? Or do you want to buy a property maybe for a lifestyle component because it's on the beach and you want to live there a few weeks a year? So what do you want real estate to do for you? That's the first thing of four in the hierarchy. That's what's most important. The second most important thing is the market that you invest in. Jacksonville, for example, is a market. That is a growth market. We can think of markets not just geographically, but also in product type, whether that's condos or single family homes or the mobile home market or whatever. So the second most important thing is that market, getting aligned on a growth market. And then the third most important thing, and this is key to buying across state lines, is the team, the quality of the team that you surround yourself with. Your team might be your mortgage loan officer, or a key team member is that property manager, getting good referrals on the property manager that's going to be communicative with you. And then once you're aligned on that third one, the team, then fourthly and only fourthly, do I begin looking at properties. So that's the hierarchy. It's you, market, team, and then and only then is the property. Now, look, just imagine if someone did this the opposite way and they just bought a property Oh, and after they bought the property and they figured they didn't like getting texted from their tenant every few weeks. Oh, well, then they tried to find a property manager for that property. And then they tried to figure out the market. And then they tried to figure out themselves. And does this even align with what they want? And it's just a total mess. So this is one reason I have confidence buying across state lines and why I don't invest in my home market anymore. It starts with you, then it's market, team, and finally property.
It starts with the why, right? Like it begins with the why are you doing this and what are your goals, right? Then you're looking at market dynamics, right? You said that you like to look at high growth markets. You like to be in metro areas. You're not investing in your backyard because it's a shrinking market. So I imagine that you're looking for these like populations that have these like tailwinds of net positive migration and are on with the trends. Is that kind of what you're looking for? What else are you looking for in markets?
Yep. Well, to drill down on one of those, like you mentioned it, Pablo, to your point, I do typically want to be in an MSA, in a metropolitan statistical area of a fairly sizable urban metro, maybe of 500,000 to a million or more. Oh, you can just imagine if, let's just say I bought a property in some tiny town of 6,000 people where half of that town's employment was tied to the copper mine at the edge of that town. All right. Half their employment's tied to that copper mine. Well, even if I buy that property with a good ratio of rent income to purchase price, and I buy an estate where the laws kind of tilt toward the landlord rather than the tenant, I'm pretty vulnerable there. Now my economic fortunes are tied to the economic fortunes of that copper mine. So that's why I like to be closer to a metro where there's good diversity of economic sectors before I buy a property. That's what drives long-term growth. And that's what keeps a tenant in there paying the rent for you pretty reliably.